Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see you here at the Photography and Video Show. My name is Gordon Glenister, and I'm going to be sharing this panel discussion this afternoon with three amazing influencers, or probably what they'd like to be called is content creators. You're going to hear from them in a minute. The session is all about so you want to be an influencer, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of being an influencer, how to win brand deals, and also using the right kit, both in terms of photography, video, and some of the apps that you can have access to. So without further ado, if I start with myself, my name is Gordon Glenister. I'm an author, in fact, newly acclaimed author. It was only just published this week, Influencer Marketing Strategy. I'm also a podcast host of Influence, the global podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify and other networks. But I'm also a trainer when I run influencer marketing masterclasses. But lastly, I'm also the global head of influencer marketing at the Branded Content Marketing Association. So I like to think I know a little bit about this, but equally, I want to hear from three amazing content creators. So Rebecca, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a fashion street style lifestyle photographer. I create content for brands, influencers, and also do lots of traveling when you can. And yeah, my main thing is photography and creating content for Instagram and social media platforms.
So you've actually got some amazing brands that you've worked with there. Coast, Boohoo, Benefit. We're going to talk a little bit more about brand deals, but some amazing shots there.
Thank you very much. Love them.
So, Louis, sorry?
They're all like kind of my travel ones there, actually. Three of them are.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. I know, of course, and travel has had a big impact, isn't it? With events not being able to take place. Thank you, anyway. So, Louise, tell us a little bit about what you do.
I predominantly run a family Instagram account. We talk a lot about single parenting and kind of recovering from domestic abuse, and I work with a lot of different women and a lot of different charities as well as family brands that pay the bills. I do lots of things outside. I found that Instagram has led to a lot of other jobs that I wouldn't have expected. I write content for other people. I take photos for other people. I model for other brands, like you name it. If it's vaguely related to Instagram, I've probably done it for a completely unexpected brand as well. So it's quite fun. It's always different. Every day is different.
And there's some fantastic pictures there. I mean, obviously I know you well, and I follow you on Instagram, and what you do with Photoshop is quite phenomenal. For those of you watching this, you should definitely, in fact, follow all of the girls. But Louise's Instagram is amazing. Certainly, the aesthetic. It's all about the aesthetic for you, isn't it? All about making sure that the grid looks good.
Very picky. I think, especially like for me, after I started learning to use Photoshop and Lightroom, and then getting to work with them off the back of it as well, just to help me really keep my colors in check and change the colors of things that I feel like don't belong on my Instagram. I've been very, very picky about it. Notoriously picky, possibly. I don't work with brands that are the wrong color for my Instagram.
Oh, I love it. And then last but by no means least, Latoya, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am a videographer who kind of fell into content creating and really enjoy it. I worked with quite a few brands. I've got a hair company that I work with at the moment doing hair vitamins, which is loads of fun. But I work specifically in the hospitality industry, so in food, which I absolutely love because it meant that I was going to restaurant openings and obviously doing promo videos for them and stuff like that. So my Instagram became quite food orientated. But then obviously COVID hit, so I had to pivot, and I decided to start doing different kind of content in regards to just like advertising different brands, and I like coming up with creative ideas as well. So it's been quite a lot of fun. This video right here was for a tights company. for Valentine's Day, and I actually did the flame throwing, not flame throwing. What's it called? When you blow the flames. I actually did
Oh,
this.
look at that. Yeah.
Fun,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean,
Had a lot of help.
wow.
TikTok you
Look
did,
at
Latoya.
that.
That's amazing.
What's that? The hot chocolate one?
Oh, amazing. Love it.
Yeah, the hot chocolate one was because I was literally watching someone else do something with water, and I was like, I want to do that. And I was like, I miss Starbucks, I miss hot chocolate. So I thought, let me
Yeah.
try Starbucks and do that. This video playing now is a promo. So what ended up happening was, because of the content I was putting on my Instagram, and because I'm a videographer, I started getting booked for jobs. So this was something I'd done recently for someone that wanted a promo video for when the gyms reopen.
Yeah.
So I just went to the gym. It was just me and him, and I just filmed it for him and then edited it and then put his nice little logo at the end. And so, yeah, it's actually been quite a lot of fun, and surprisingly still been getting a lot of work, even though the pandemic's been going on. I'm quite grateful, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Okay. Thank you for that. Let's have a little bit more of a discussion about what it's like. I mean, Louise, you've been around the gram for a while, as you often refer to it. What are some of the benefits about being a content creator? And how, actually, let's roll back a little bit. When did you start? When did you really start becoming involved in the industry?
I suppose when I was pregnant with Zebedee, so he's like 3.5 now. That was the first time someone approached me to offer me money to do something I was doing anyway. So I was really excited by that. It was Johnson's baby. It was when I was pregnant, and I had like 2 under 2, so I had a baby, and I was pregnant, so it was perfect for them. And yeah, it felt really out of the blue. I kind of fell into it all by accident. Just for something I was doing anyway, just taking pictures of my kids. So that was exciting, I think. I have been around quite a while. I'm old. I remember when Instagram came out. I remember when Facebook came out, to be fair. So that's not the case for everyone on there at the minute, is it?
So tell us a little bit about Johnson's then, because I know you've worked with Johnson's for a while. So effectively, they found you, didn't they? And what was it?
Yeah.
Originally, and then what happened next? So how did that brand collaboration work?
Originally, it was different than how it ended up. It was just a PR company. They were American, but they were organizing Johnson's in all the different areas of the world they were in. Just found me and asked me to do like a one-off ad, and they sent me some stuff, and I think it was about the second round of Instagram advertising that they'd done. I didn't do the first one. And then later, the actual UK Johnson's team put together a team of about 30 or so parent accounts to begin kind of addressing some of the myths and things that are going on around baby products. But Johnson's were quite overshadowed by the whole talcum powder debacle, which was rubbish, but it was a big deal. But also there's a lot of things at the minute you have to buy paraben-free things and formaldehyde-free things, and a lot of that's false marketing. And so it was mostly just about education, and like we met with scientists and chemists that formulated baby products and were the lead kind of world researchers. So it was mostly about education to start with, and then it moved on into how we could kind of encourage families and help mums to think about self-care and not abandon themselves to parenting and stuff. And it became more of like an emotional content campaign later on, which suited me really well. I like both of those, to be fair. I like science.
Because this is really interesting, isn't it? A lot of people that speak to me say, "Oh, I want to become an influencer. I want to become a content creator. How can I grow my audience?" And often it's about being authentic, isn't it? About being passionate about a particular cause. And if you do that well, consistently, often these organizations will find you. But of course, now it's super competitive now. How do you really stand out? I mean, what do you think, Latoya, about that? How do you stand out when you've got lots and lots of people now in the same sort of space?
I think my thing that I've realized is, even though there's a lot of people in the same space as me, not everyone can do what I do. So I always have the mentality, not that I'm better than anyone, but I'm me and I know what I'm capable of doing. So I always try and push the boundaries. I'm constantly studying. Like with videography, I feel like everything changes so quickly, even in regards to equipment. Like I bought so much equipment last month, I think it was, because I was like, okay, I need it. Like there's always a new gimbal coming out or a new flash gun for the top of the camera, I'm sure Rebecca would say. Like there's always something you can get. So I think what I try and focus on is knowing that to be different, I need to educate myself. So I will spend time watching YouTube videos on how to do different transitions. I will spend time on TikTok to get creative ideas. Like that's one of the biggest places where I find like you can find ideas for something and then you just repurpose it. Or I always try and think, okay, how can I make this content better? How can I make it different? Like I said, the hot chocolate video came from watching someone do it something similar with water, and I was like, okay, how can I add to this? How can I make mine different? So I added on the whipped cream on the top, and it took forever, but I just feel like if you can educate yourself and keep pushing and trying to do something different, like not just following a trend, you will always stand out.
Mm. What about you, Rebecca? What do you think? I mean, what are some of the pros of being an influencer? I mean, you've been on some amazing trips with other influencers as well, because not only are you getting brand partnerships yourself, but of course you've worked with some very big, well-known individuals. Um, so, so I guess you've enjoyed some good times when
Yeah,
when all the events were going on. Um,
no,
so, so tell us a little bit about the fun parts of being an influencer.
I think that what I love is everyone kind of comes together and everyone shares all their different tips. Like, I really do love that kind of when you're like put together and you're all being really creative and creating something. And when you're on a trip, that really happens because you're in everyone's like personal space. You'll get to know each other on such a different level. You experience a whole new thing. Like, I've thrown up on like helicopters with people, and like I have that special like intimate relationship now. And so that's definitely a perk. So I feel like you get to know the influencers in a completely different way. And they've almost become like my friends. Well, they are my
Mm.
friends now,
And
for
that's
sure.
interesting that you've just said that, because relationships are a key part of building these connections, isn't it? I think
100%.
when brands try and reach out to influencers and they almost expect them to promote their products, they haven't engaged with them enough to build that relationship. So this is
100%.
something you take very seriously, isn't it?
Very. And like, I want my work to feel like their best friend has taken the photo, that it's not a professional photographer. Because you just get more out of the image. It's more relatable. It's more aesthetic. Like, I just feel like it makes it less addy, I feel like, and it makes it feel more organic and it feels more natural.
Mm, mm. I
So
mean, and
I love photography.
yeah, well, I think again we've used the word authentic and natural, and I think that's one of the elements that can make a really strong content creator, isn't it? And it's, people are got a spot of fake a mile off now, can't we? What we want to see is people that we can relate to. I
Exactly.
mean, Louise, yeah, Louise, tell us a little bit about some other campaigns that you've worked on and how they've come about.
I think my favorite one in a lot of ways is I worked with Photoshop this summer during the pandemic, and initially I was just creating like basic entry level tutorials for their website. But the thing I love about one of the other jobs I kind of got off the back of that with them is, say, like if they're releasing a set of new brushes, so long as you use them, they'll let you use your ad with them to promote something that you care about. And that kind of flexibility in a brand partnership is when the magic happens. So I was able to link mine up with Domestic Abuse Awareness Month and support refuge charity within my ad for Photoshop, getting paid to just like reach out to people about something that's so close to me and my personal experience, and also something that a lot of women are constantly contacting me about as well. So that was really magic. And like loads of other stuff came off the back of that as well, with, you know, like podcast interviews. And I felt it's one of those times when you feel like Instagram actually is aiding your voice in a way that matters. You're not just putting out pretty pictures. Like you could genuinely be saving women's lives. Like that's real magic, having a platform that's willing to listen about that stuff, as well as, you know, like what trainers you've got your kids.
Well, that's really interesting you say that, because I think cause awareness has been a big part of, I mean, we've seen the Black Lives Matter, and we've seen lots of other causes, and that has had quite an impact about what people, particularly over the last year with the pandemic. You know, what we want is influencers to feel that they are in tune with their audience, with their audience. So yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Latoya?
It's really interesting because obviously you just mentioned Black Lives Matter, and I think for me, Instagram really showed that, like Louise said, it can make a difference. Like the amount of people I had reach out to me, and specifically for myself, Louise works with people, like she said, with domestic violence. For me, I've always said, I don't know if Rebecca would agree with me as well, like being a female in this industry is not really something that you see. Like a female videographer, people walk up to me all the time and they're like, oh, you're a videographer. And I'm like, yeah. They're just completely shocked. I've been in photo pits where I've been like the only woman, and not just the only woman, I'm the only Black person there as well. So it's definitely created something that it means you can inspire people, which I really love. Like I actually get a lot of people messaging me at the moment that are like women that are like, you've made me pick up a camera because I didn't think that women did this as a job. And I'm like, no, we're definitely here. We exist. You just need to like find us. But yeah, no, I think Instagram's made me realize that there can be a lot of unity, because like Louise said, I was someone that I got to a point that I was like, I don't just want to post pictures. This is boring. Like me in an outfit is boring. I want this to mean something. If I'm going to take time and energy to create content or do something, there needs to be a purpose to it. And I just realized my purpose was I'm actually inspiring other women to pick up a camera, to actually want to do this as a job, and realize that, yes, you can do it and you can make a career of it as well.
And how important is it? How important is it, Rebecca, to keep an eye on the analytics? So when you're putting content out, knowing that it's actually having an impact, as Latoya said, you know, the time of day that you post, the length of the video, and what I'm trying to do is to suggest the attributes of success, the key part of being a successful influencer.
I also like them things don't really matter. I don't think it matters what time of day you post now. I just think it's about being consistent and being like your why. Like, what is your why? Like, what are you posting? Are you educating someone? Are you inspiring someone? I think it's more about that now, and it's like used to be what time of day and all that stuff, but I feel like now it's more, why are you posting, and what is someone going to learn from that? Like, I had someone speak to me about this the other day, like when you post, you don't just post a photo anymore. You post the behind the scene of how you took that photo. You show, you know, outtakes, and like that's now what people are interested in and engaging with.
It's interesting. Yeah, no, I agree with you, isn't it? We don't like the overcrafted Photoshop. We like the fact that actually it's the rawness, isn't it? And maybe, you know, maybe COVID-19 has brought that out so that people feel that they want to be able to connect with their influencer. Just out of interest, it'd be good to get an idea from all of you. Who influences you? Who influences you, Louise?
Oh, so many people. I've always loved. She was Bookish Bronte. Now she's from Be With Love. I think she's said lately like she's been lost and struggling, but there's a way in which I've really enjoyed watching that, because we're all like that. Like we all feel stuck sometimes when you have to post only one kind of content, and when somebody is constantly changing their content and their message and what it is that they want to talk about, as much as the algorithm might sometimes find it frustrating, I actually feel more connected to somebody through that, like, because you're on a journey with them. You're not just, like watching like odd pictures. Like, you kind of feel like you're in it with them, and I'm waiting as much to see what she feels like, is going to become her thing next. And then also, like, I really love artistic kind of Alexandria's Lens and Joel Robinson and Paperboy, and people who like really push the boundaries with their digital artwork, which doesn't massively fit into my parenting space. But I'm a writer, and I always find that their images are inspirational to me. And like, I have another Instagram for writing, and I find like there's so much inspiration in that kind of work.
Well, a picture tells 1,000 words, doesn't it? And it can be so
Exactly.
dramatic. Actually, I know some big brands will often will search out great photographers and videographers that don't necessarily have huge audiences. But because of the quality of the content, they will want to work with them, and they will amplify that through their social media or indeed other assets on their site, because it really does convey their message in a really creative way. Um, so, Rebecca, who inspires you? Who influences you?
I feel like my biggest inspiration is probably Jessica Basie. She's a fashion-based photographer in LA. I love her work so much, and I also love the fact that I also follow her really strongly on her YouTube channel. I feel like I just love like learning from her. And another photographer that I love is a photographer called Clint, who's also LA based. I mean, can we all just have LA light? And I love his work because he shoots predominantly on an iPhone and isn't ashamed of it. And his work is incredible.
Wow.
So you can shoot on an iPhone.
Latoya, who influences you?
I have a list. So I have a thing at the moment where it's like there are about 4 or 5 content creators, and I call them content creators because they don't actually, their niche is video editing. So Will Carmack, Caleb Natal, Karen X Cheng, and who's the other one I watched? Kevin B. Parry. Now they've all got a specialty. So like Kevin B. Parry is like prolific in stop motion videos, which is amazing, but he'll also just, his ideas are so creative. Like he did a video once where he jumped in the air and turned into a pumpkin. So that inspired me to do a video where I jumped into the air and turned into a gingerbread man pillow. Like literally, I will watch, I sit there and I'm like, this is so much fun, but they do things that are outside the box and pushing boundaries, and I think that's why I like them. But I know that's also their job, so they'll do it for themselves just to do a fun creative video, but off the back of that they then get booked to do animation videos or just loads of other stuff. Like Caleb Natal did one recently where his wife painted a wall and it had Super Mario Kart on it, and in the video he moves the wall with his hand, and then when she comes in the room, he's standing behind the door, and as she hits the door backwards, he gets splattered onto the wall in a pixelated version, like a Super Mario version of himself, and then he just drops off of the wall. Like the way they come up with these crazy ideas, like I find it so inspiring, and it makes me sit here and I'll stare at something like, I don't know, my glasses, and think, what fun transition can I do with that? Or what can I do to like animate my glasses or just do something creative with it. And I think those are the people that inspire me at the moment, the ones that are just doing outside the box content that kind of grabs you and you're like, oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, the lesson here is for anybody watching this is to do your research, isn't it? Is to check out other people that are in your niche, in your space, and see what they're doing, and pick out some of the best ideas. But Rome wasn't built in a day, isn't it? If you want to grow your audience, it's going to take some time. What about connecting with brands? Reaching out to brands. Rebecca, how has that worked with you? Now, obviously, in some instances, the brands will come to you, but there might be opportunities where you think, "Oh, I would love to work with that brand. I've got the right type of content." What would your advice be to connect with a brand?
I think the one thing I would do is probably start creating content that you think they would want to see on their page, or create the same sort of aesthetic or I don't know, get that kind of like mood board going and create something. Because I found recently, it's actually happened twice in the last month, where shoots that I've done for personal reasons, I've just created a shoot I wanted to create, I've now had brands come to me and want that shoot that I did. So, and that's not even attracting, that's like organically attracting the right brands for your aesthetic, if that makes sense. I feel like, so that, yes, that's happened to me twice in the last like month. And I'm
Wow.
really excited.
Yeah.
And it's also made me think I want to do more of them, because they're the best days when you know, no one's getting paid, you're doing it as a collaboration, you're working with other creatives, all like working to do the same, like get the same result that you want to get. And yeah, so that's been amazing. And that way then you're attracting the right brands.
And I'm also guessing, because you work with other big leading influencers and you've got a bit of a name and a reputation in a particular genre, they are referring you to their friends or their bubble.
Yeah, so for example, I work a lot with an influencer called Steph Fit. So she requested me as her photographer. I've never done like proper fitness stuff before, but now I'm working for Puma because I'm now shooting all Steph stuff, and now Puma are now using me for all their other stuff. So it's amazing how that works. The same thing's just happened with Misguided, with Sarah Ashcroft. So that kind of thing really does work because people trust people they already work with. So that happens quite a lot, and amazingly been kind of grown my portfolio of brands that way.
I love that. I mean, trust is so important now. I mean, there are some great content creators out there that do amazing jobs. I mean, it's something that's ruled my life for so long. Okay, that's really interesting. So let's talk a little bit about kit, shall we? Because obviously we're at the photography and video show, so a lot of people that are watching this are going to be experienced photographers, no doubt. Love to hear about what kit you use, i.e., what cameras, video or otherwise, and what software that you use for editing. If we start with Louise, perhaps you'd like to start off first. What do you use?
Well, I've always been a Canon girl. I'm only on my like second camera, and it's so old. But I just think if you buy well, it will last. And so, I mean, the thing is, it's like a 7D. It weighs about 4 tons. And I would very much like to trade it in for something I can carry about a bit easier. But I don't know. I really like having a proper big, it's not an analog camera, it's digital, but it still feels like when I first picked up a camera, it's got that kind of nostalgia about it. So I'm struggling to come up to date a little bit. But that's just me. I still write with a pen and paper and then type it up afterwards. I'm not young. But I like to, in post-production, I'm better at learning and adapting with Lightroom and with Photoshop and stuff like that.
Yeah. So when you're out on the beach, I was going to say, so when you're out on the beach, who's taking your pictures when you're in it?
So generally my son will take a picture of me and I'll take a picture of the rest of them, and then I'll Photoshop them together. I have to like really carefully position everybody. Like you can make marks in the sand, and then I have to make sure he's squatted right. There's a lot of outtakes at bizarre angles. And he just starts taking them as soon as I move. So there'll be like 100 photos of me getting further and further and further into the distance. But it's nice, and he likes it, and the kids are interested in photography. And like often on their birthday, they'll want new little like digital cameras that you can do green screen stuff on. And so it's nice because inadvertently they've, kind of become passionate about the thing that I love, which is a nice bonding experience. Sometimes he takes some, we take her.
Yeah, I do love your. I know I mentioned it at the beginning, but guys, you've got to go and have a look at Beautifully Defected Instagram. Some of the things that you've done with you being like so big, tiny, and the children being bigger. You've created different sizes. We haven't got them on that image there, but there are some great ones.
I know what you're talking about. It was Zebedee. And I was tiny and like grr, and he was massive. And I was just literally, I think the caption was just like parenting a toddler be like, and I'm like, ah. And he was a giant, yeah. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That's it. I love it. I love it. Great. Rebecca, tell us about what kits you use and what software.
Yeah, I'm quite adaptive. So like I kind of change my camera depending on who I'm working with. Depending, like some influencers like to be shot on the Olympus pen, which is, let's see if I haven't got it on here. So I shoot on the Olympus pen quite a lot because it's basically like an iPhone, but you get like your camera settings. If not, I shoot on my Canon 5D Mark IV, which I love, and a 24-70 2.8 lens. And then I also do shoot on my smartphone as well. And then I also shoot on the Canon G7X for video. I feel like it's a really good vlogging camera. Yeah, it's a great camera for video.
Do you know there's even films being made now on iPhone? Have you heard about this?
Yep.
It's incredible what's going on. But that just shows you about that sort of immediacy, that fast action excitement. Yeah, that's good. And what about software? What about editing stuff?
Oh, Adobe everything. So I use Premiere Pro, I use Lightroom, and I also use Photoshop on my computer. But for like culling, I'm actually using Photo Mechanic. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it's just like an amazing software that like loads all your raws up really quickly and loads them as JPEGs. So it just makes that selecting process so much quicker. Because for me, that's the longest part of editing is selecting. So that program's really changed the game for me and got me back so many more.
I was just going to ask you, just to get an idea, because a lot of people in the public often think, oh, these influencers, they just go and take a picture and then they go and post it on Instagram. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I've been out with Latoya on events, and I kid you not, she's probably taken about 80 pictures to have just one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that your experience? I mean, what's an average shoot? How many you would take to get the right one?
Thousands. My hard drives situation is actually out of control. But yeah, there's people like options, and also people want it now. And I feel like that's actually like one of the hardest parts, I think, of being a content creator is everything's so instant now. So there's a lot of pressure. Like when I do my events, if I'm doing like a makeup event, which I'm missing so much, but you know, the brand book me because they know that I'm going to get that photo to that influencer there and then. And that's the way that, because you want it to be again organic. So you want the influencer to post that night. So I actually use a device which is a dongle. So I'm literally, honestly, it's mad. I'm there like no assistant either, taking pictures, but then when they're eating their dinner, like about to take a mouthful, I'm like, so here's your images. So I'm like passing them onto their iPhone. They're selecting their images because I want them to have it that night. And I feel like that is a big pressure of what we do is, you know, everything is so instant now, and it needs to be because we've all got to keep up.
Yeah. Well, I was involved in the launch of the BCMA Influence last year, and you know, I remember one top food influencer had to you know, she was only there for an hour, so I went and had a chat with her. I said, "Oh, Flora, how come you're going so quickly?" And she said, "Oh no, Gordon, it was a great event. I'm sorry, I've got 4 other events to go to."
Oh my.
So this is the demand now about some of these people because they're so they've got such great following that people want them to come to their events. So yeah. Okay, Latoya, then, what kit do you use?
I've got so much stuff and I just bought more the other day. I'm a Canon girl as well. So I've got a 80D, I have a 90D, and I have the 5D Mark IV. Again, like Rebecca said, depending on the job of what I'm doing, depends on what camera I'll actually take with me. I just bought a little Insta360 camera. I've also got a lot of my equipment there. I use lighting is very important to me. I'm a newer girl when it comes to lighting. So I just bought some lights that change colors and everything like that. Editing software, I'm actually, as much as I do Adobe for my photos and things like that, I'm a Final Cut Pro when it comes to editing. And that's just because when I started out editing, I started on iMovie. So it was a natural transition for me to go to Final Cut Pro. And then the first pandemic we had,
Mommy's on the phone.
the first pandemic we had, I was gonna try and learn Premiere Pro, but then I started just talking to other people that were doing videography and stuff like that. And I was really shocked because not a lot of people actually are using Premiere Pro. When I say not a lot of people, I mean the people that I was looking up to and I loved their editing and stuff. They were actually saying to me, no, I just use like Final Cut Pro, and then they were using After Effects. So I was like, okay. I didn't realize that that was a. So I'm teaching myself After Effects at the moment. I've bought a load of transitions from Pixel Film Studios, which I absolutely love. They've got so many transitions to help make videos pop, so many little add-ons that you can buy. They've even got a face tracker one, which is basically like Facetune for videos, which I was like, I didn't even know this existed. So if I film someone and they're like, Latoya, can you remove the spot in the video? I can now do that. And I'm just like, there is so much out there. Yeah. Also, my new favorite toy, which I just bought myself a gimbal. I got the new DJI RS2 Pro. It cost an arm and a leg, but I used it when I was actually doing the gym promo video. That was the first time I got to take it out, and I absolutely adored it. I was standing there. It's got a little device, so you can hook it up to your phone, and then however you move your phone, the camera will move on top of the gimbal, and it's just like you can be standing at the other end of the room and be controlling the actual gimbal and not even be standing right next to it. It's honestly the kit that you can get nowadays. DJI have just brought out a new drone, and I'm like, I want it. It comes with goggles, so you actually are just watching what you're filming, so you feel like you're actually in the drone. So if the drone's in the middle of the air, it's like a new VR experience. So there's so much fun equipment that you can have, and there's like so much equipment. I sit here and I'm like, I want this, I want this, I want this. I think that's the problem that I have at the moment, trying to figure out not to spend all the money in the world, because some don't need it. Like you said, an iPhone now, you can shoot in RAW on an iPhone, which gives you so much more flexibility in regards to not having to take a camera out all the time. So yeah, that's what I use at the moment.
Oh, great, super. So, lasting tips really from all of you. Let's just say somebody's got maybe 500 or 1,000 followers on Instagram. What would your perhaps 2 or 3 tips be to grow that? And we've said that Rome wasn't built on a day, so it's not going to happen overnight. But what are some of the tips that you'd like to share with the audience? We start with you, Louise. You had a moment there with your. This is the perils of live streaming, of course, isn't it?
Yes, I am. I'm sat on my bathroom floor because it's the only place that I can lock the door, but the little one was crying, so I had to just bring him in for a second. I've forgotten the question now. Growing. Honestly, I grew my Instagram before Facebook bought it, and it was much easier then. I think the thing I would say though with growing your Instagram and trying to actually forge a career now, as opposed to doing it accidentally, like I think so many of us did as it was so new, is not conforming. I think there's so much pressure to be, especially when you're starting out, to kind of pander to what you think people want. But that's really bad for your mental health, and it will take such a toll on everything that you're doing. I think that it takes courage, and it is really hard to stand when you feel like you're standing alone and you're like, everybody posts this way and they think I should do that, but actually what feels comfortable and right for you. If you stick with it, it will take a long time, but you will find your actual people, and in the end, your community is going to be so much stronger. So then when you do advertise and things like that, the people will already care about you, and they're not going to just like unfollow you because you had the audacity to post an ad on Instagram. Like, they're actually going to be happy for you and proud of you that you've managed to forge a career in such a creative and flexible way. But it's a slow process. It's not an instant gratification kind of career, which is a little bit at odds with, I think, in so many ways, social media is an instant gratification platform. And I was watching a psychologist on YouTube the other day, and he was saying the trouble with it is now is that it's teaching us to kind of see where we are and see where we want to be and not see the mountain in between. We just think, oh, we'll click a button and we'll be there. We'll have an impact. We'll do all of the things. But there's so much work that has to go into getting to the top of that mountain that it is hard. It takes its toll. But just find your people, I think, is the best way to grow your Instagram.
I honestly love that. I mean, I'm a great believer in having an engaged community. Better that it's a smaller group, but one that actually responds and reacts to, which is why, of course, we've seen such growth in micro influencers and indeed nano influencers, which are those that have got less than 10,000 followers. So, yeah, very interesting. Rebecca, perhaps you'd like to sort of share some tips on how you've grown your audience.
Completely agree with Louise. Like, everything has obviously changed so much now. The algorithm changed, and like, you go on YouTube now and it's just like all these different ideas of how to like beat the algorithm. And the truth is, like, you're not going to beat the algorithm, because they're going to show people what they want already liking. And I feel like we need to now like change the way we do that and just actually like create content that you want to create now. Like, I'm not going to think now like, oh, I'm just going to post that because I think it's going to do really well. I'm now posting stuff that I actually just want to post and want to share, because I used to be like so like particular with it and be like, oh, I'm not going to post that because I know it won't do well. Well, now I'm going to post it. Like, I feel like that's kind of how I've changed it. And I feel like I'm actually getting more like different work now that I was originally, and like growing myself a bit more. But also, like, I would say, like, just being consistent is so important. I know that's what everyone says, but like, you do need to make sure you are posting, and also just being really yourself on Instagram stories, like, and overthinking everything. I think just be you, talk about real life day stuff, and also talk about things that aren't always great as well.
Again, 100% agree with that. It makes you much more relatable, doesn't it? And not something that is remote. Latoya, what about your what about your tips? What do you think?
You know what? Two of my tips are actually going to come from what Rebecca said the first time we ever did a panel. I remember her saying, "Make sure your story is like a reality TV show," and
so true.
Yeah,
tuning into
yeah, it made me laugh, because recently someone came up to me and there's like, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is watch your story, because I know you've always had some sort of drama or something's happened or you're spilling something. Like, people will see me do things like trying to put up a kitchen light and the kitchen light will drop, and then I'm stuck on my chair in the middle of the kitchen. I'm literally filming like, does anyone have an idea of how I can get down from here safely? And then the other one that I was going to say that Rebecca mentioned before as well, which was show your face. I've stopped putting a lot of wholeness on my likes anymore, because I've realized that my quality of work and my standard of work is actually very high. And I might not have all the followers in the world, but I'm still managing to get work. And I sit here sometimes and I'm like, if I'm getting work and I'm classed as a nano influencer, imagine how much work I'd probably be getting if I had like thousands more followers. So I'm very comfortable in the space that I'm in, that my income isn't just coming from Instagram. My income is because I have a skill that in real life people actually want. So I now use my Instagram more as a business of, this is how I did this shot, or I use this equipment when I was here. Like, a lot of my pictures now, I've said recently, all my pictures are going to be with me with my camera. If my camera's not in the photo, it does not need to go on my Instagram. So everything everyone sees is me working, is me doing a fun edited video, so you can see what my editing skills are like. I just feel like you need to provide, and it's not necessarily about having a niche, but it's what we keep going back to, that if you can inspire people or you can show them something a little bit different, you're going to naturally grow an audience. You're going to naturally get people coming to you and being like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Or, I love the fact that you put up a video that you had flies in your kitchen and you was like, how do I get rid of these? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, the bloopers seem to, I've seen some of them on your show and they are good.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm a real person, and I feel like sometimes with social media, when you see all these people with like expensive things or certain things, people feel like that can't be them. But the reality is, it can be you. It's just, and I'm not saying they're not working, it's just we're showcasing how we're working on a public platform. So you can see me forget that my batteries aren't charged and now I've got to wait an hour to charge up a battery to do a video. Or you can see me just on set filming a gym video, or on set filming a personal chef, or just whatever I'm doing. You're just sharing it with people. And it's also, like I said, it's inspiring. So I think for me, my top tips would be show your face, like Rebecca said before. Just know if you're going to be on social media, it's a social media platform. People want to know everything. And don't be afraid to be an imperfect person, because the realities are no one's perfect. And they don't need to see a perfect person all the time. What they need to see is a real life individual that they can actually relate to.
No, absolutely. Just before we move on to the few last minutes, you changed your Instagram to London Videographer, didn't you? And
Yeah.
just doing that, you saw a significant increase in people connecting with you.
Massive increase. Like, people will literally say when they look for videographer on Instagram, like, I'm one of the top people that will come up for them, which means, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm getting more work, I'm getting more jobs. It actually came from one of my friends last year. He actually said to me, if you're a videographer, don't just put it in your bio. Like, no one's going to search your name, not in a rude way, but I'm not high enough up for people to be just looking for my name. He said, but if you put videographer and you're showcasing your work, people are going to come to you naturally. And I do. The amount of DMs I get, like, every day from people that are like, can you do this video, can you do that video? Like, I'm in a comfortable place now where I'm actually turning down jobs, because I'm like, I'm really sorry, I'm busy on that day. But then it's really weird, because it's like yesterday even I was filming something for women empowerment, these women that are doing like business coaching for other women. And when I was in the building, I was walking around with my camera in my hand, and a random guy stopped me, and he was like, "Oh, you're a photographer?" And I was like, "I do photography and videography." And he was like, "Oh, great. Have you got a card?" And I was like, "I don't." He was like, "Right, let me give you yours." And he took my number, and then he phoned me yesterday night and has booked me for Monday morning. Just because, one, he could go on my Instagram and see my work, and two, I have a website so he could see my work. And that was just in Canary Wharf, random people. And that's why I'm saying, like, sometimes, like Rebecca said, showing your face and showing you with the camera lets people know that this is what I do as a job. So not only
Yeah,
am I creating content, you can hire me for it too.
I
yeah.
did
I
what
think
you did ages ago, and it changed everything. Like, it's such a good way to show what you are and what you do straight away as soon as they come onto your page. So I just wanted to just point that out. Didn't mean
no,
to
no,
bother you.
but you're right. You need to be totally aligned with your brand and be consistent in your message, not just on
Yeah,
your Instagram, but it needs to be across all of the platforms. I mean, I've changed that myself. So if you go and look at Gordon Glenister on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, it's all of the same aesthetic. And it doesn't matter
yeah,
how old you are, how young you are, when you've got influencers like Ryan's World, Ryan's Toys, like a 9-year-old made $22 million last year. And then you've got Baddie, I think her name is, who's the oldest influencer. And she's got 3.8 million followers. But all they are is consistent with their content and relevant to their audience.
also
So,
you go on the page and you know what you're going to get. There's like
Yeah.
definitely something in that. Like, yeah, you've got to be you keep to your thing for sure.
your thing. We've got a
Yeah.
minute left, so I just want to say thank you to all of you. So, if anybody wants to find out more about what we do, Louise's handle is at beautifully defected, isn't it?
There's an underscore
And
in there.
then, sorry, there's an underscore, isn't there? Yes. Yeah, Louise
Sorry.
Simpson, beautifully underscore defected. Latoya is London videographer on
No, my at is
Instagram.
actually still Latoya Lavelle. My at is still Latoya Lavelle, but my name is
Oh,
London
it's still
Videographer.
Latoya. Okay, okay. And then Rebecca Spencer is Rebecca Spencer. Is that right?
Underscore photography.
Underscore photography. Okay. And I'm just Gordon Glenister. It's been a really lovely to have a chat with you, ladies, this afternoon. It's been a blast, and thank
And you,
you to the photography and video show for allowing us to host it.